on leadership.
Okay, Brother Burnett. So first of all, thank you. And, it's always, a great opportunity for me to spend time with young men because it's a great reminder for me that at one time in life, I looked like you. One of the things I want to cover about leadership, and before I get into that, let me describe who I am, because there's always a good question: who is Rod Atkins? And I guess a simple way to think about it was when I was in high school. I always wanted to be either a politician, an athlete, or an entertainer. And it turns out, I wasn't savvy enough to be a politician. And although I was pretty good at athletics, I really wasn't talented or gifted enough to be an athlete. And I don't think I was flamboyant enough to be an entertainer. But it turned out I was actually special enough to become an engineer. And I actually became a pretty good engineer. And when I have a chance to talk to young men like yourself, I typically get 4 or 5 questions. So let me sort of share a few of those questions up front. The first question I usually get is, what type of car do you drive? And, the answer I always give back is a really nice one. The second question I usually get is, how much money did you make, or how much money do you make now? And the answer I usually give back to that question is a lot. The third question I get is, where do you live? And I'm a little bit more specific with that answer, and I typically say on the beach. And then my favorite question is typically, what type of music do you listen to? And it turns out I actually enjoy an assortment of music ranging from gospel, R&B. I do love jazz, but I also love rap and trap music. So I love a combination of different types of music. And the fifth question, the final question is, what does success look like to you? And over the years, I've come up with an answer that says, success to me looks like when more young Black men like yourself who can, have the same answers to the first 4 questions that I had. So that's what success looks like to me. So one of the things that, and I'm sure you hear this from my brothers, as it relates to National Kappa League leadership program, everything in life sort of starts with leadership. And the Kappa League is really about how we prepare young men for leadership. And in Kappa, you must be a good brother before you become a good leader. And so how I like to think about leadership is, bad leaders believe people work for them. That's actually a bad leader. A good leader believes people work with them. But we all should strive to be great leaders, and a great leader believes that they work for the people. And that's sort of one of the hallmarks that I've always tried to follow. The other thing I usually like to do is I usually like to ask a question, and I'm gonna pose a question to everyone in terms of, and I know you guys are at an age, but how many of you have heard of a singer called Jimi Hendrix? And you really don't have to answer the question, but I usually like to tee that up. I know all of my brothers know Jimi Hendrix, but the reason I always tee up Jimi Hendrix is because it turns out Jimi was a popular entertainer in the 60s. But what a lot of people don't know, his main stage career, in terms of the length of his performance, it only lasted for 4 years. This is a man that achieved greatness in 4 years. And even today, when you talk about some of the greatest guitar players of all time, Jimi Hendrix is always in the discussion. And he accomplished that feat in a 4-year period. And the reason why I'm bringing up Jimi Hendrix is because he actually says something very powerful, and it has become my leadership guiding principle. And what he said was, knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. So let me just repeat that. Knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. So young man, this has sort of been one of the foundational principles of leadership that, you know, throughout my business career, I've always sort of held close to me, that knowledge speaks, but wisdom listens. And so this has allowed me to really think about leadership 3 ways. First, know when to listen. So the key word there is listen. Know what to learn. So the second key word is what to learn. And then the third area is know how to leverage. So the third word is leverage. So think about leadership equals sort of 3 key words: listen, learn, and leverage. So when I break down, what does listen mean? Well, listen means surround yourself with knowledgeable people. Because, you know, in life is really about how you are constantly learning things through and from others. So always try to surround yourself with knowledgeable people. The area of learn. And my favorite word in the whole world is curiosity. So stay intellectually curious and commit to lifelong learning. You know, even at my age, where I had a successful career at IBM in the technology industry, you know, I still spend a lot of time learning new things because my view is you never stop learning. So it's really about how do you commit to lifelong learning, because you can always be better. The third word, leverage. And what I mean by leverage is how you effectively get things done with and through people. Because really life is really about how well you can team and collaborate, whether it's at sports, whether it's in business, whether it's in just social activities, but it is really how you get things done with and through people. So just remember, my viewpoint around leadership is listen, learn, and leverage. The last question that I'll pose you with is, as you can tell, I like music. One of my favorite rappers is a guy by the name of Coolio. And I know you guys listen to, you know, an interesting menu of rappers, but Coolio was one of my favorite rappers because he, in one of his songs, he said, "They say I need to learn, but nobody here to teach me. If they don't understand, how can they reach me?" And I always thought about those being very powerful lyrics. And I've always associated those lyrics with our Guide Right program, because this program, you know, our Kappa League program is all about the fact that we understand you because we are you. You know, we've been where you are today. So, you know, it is all about, you know, the things that we can do to allow you to be much greater young men throughout this journey of life. So sort of in closing, if you take away one thing from what I'm talking about, remember leadership is about, you know when to listen, know what to learn, and know how to leverage. That is simply leadership, and those guiding principles have allowed me to do pretty well in life. And with that, Brother Brunette, I'll turn it back over to you, but I just wanted to just share just briefly my thoughts and my views on leadership.
Well, thank you, Brother Atkins. And again, I would like to encourage, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Atkins in regards to his career, his leadership? You don't often get this kind of opportunity. Probably did not do as well of a job as I should in introduction, but you could think of Mr. Atkins as being the Michael Jordan equivalent of the business world, okay. Which means he's doing it all, he's done it all, and he's the best that there is. So you don't often get an opportunity to ask questions. Zaire, see you raise your hand. Go ahead and you should be able to come off mute.
Zaire, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good.
So I have a two-part question.
Okay.
One, did you have a good, support network as you were working on becoming who you are now?
Okay.
And then the second question, which is related to that, is now that you are where you are, do you still go back and talk to, if they are still here, the people who helped you get to where you are?
Okay, so Zaire, those are excellent questions. And I'll probably mix the two questions up as I respond, but I remind myself each day who I am and where I came from. And I actually grew up in a very challenging environment. I grew up in Liberty City, Miami, where, quite frankly, each and every day was a challenge because of the environment. And I would say I had a very strong support network. My network started with a family that we didn't have much. We really didn't have much, but we had values and we had principles as a family. And then I also benefited from the fact that a number of my teachers, they were members of Kappa Alpha Psi. And I remember these were really role models in my life, and I always had the aspirations of I wanted to be like one of them one day. Johnny Jones, who was the school attendant, superintendent for the schools here in Miami-Dade County. Eric Jenkins, my art teacher, who was a Kappa. And one of my counselors at the YMCA was a Kappa. And then I was big in martial arts when I was growing up. So my sensei, or my martial arts teacher, was very instrumental in my life. So I really had a strong support network as I came through the neighborhood. And at the time, I didn't really have the benefit of a Kappa League program, although the programs were available in my area. But I was much more dedicated to martial arts and my academics. And, thinking back on things, I really wish I had the opportunity to leverage the type of opportunity that you young men have today. But there were Kappas constantly throughout my life in terms of my support system. And then when I got to college, there were a number of people that ended up being my mentor. And then when I was in the work world, when I was working for IBM as an engineer, I had a number of professional mentors. Again, some of them members of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity as well. So I had a very, very strong network. And I ended up, from a career perspective, being actually in IBM's 100-year history, being the first Black or African American that became one of the top 5 executives in the company. And so that you know, IBM is a company that is made up of 450,000 employees. IBM operates in over 200 countries around the world, and IBM as a company generates over $100 billion in terms of business or sales revenues. And my job at IBM, at one point I had a third of the company, so I was responsible for about $30 billion of what IBM did annually in terms of sales. And at one time, I had over 200,000 of the 450,000 employees working for me. So, and most of those employees were computer scientists and engineers. So I had a very, very good career, actually a great career at IBM. And now today, I sit on what is called boards of large companies. And you know, having a very successful career, it has allowed me to continue to develop as a leader. So I sit on a board of a company that you guys probably know, PayPal, which has the application Venmo that you guys use all the time to send around cash. So I sit on that board and advise them in terms of their strategies and what they should do as a business. I sit on the board of a company called UPS, which most of you probably have received packages from. And UPS is one of the top 10 largest companies in the world. And then I'm also the chairman of a company called Avnet, which is a information technology distribution company. And I also sit on the board of a company called Grainger. So that's what I'm sort of doing in this second chapter of my life. So and today I still have a strong network where I continue to talk to people that's knowledgeable. And remember the point I made, know when to listen. So I follow my own advice and I constantly surround myself with knowledgeable people. And my second point, when I talk about know what to learn, I am constantly learning something new every year. You know, so I am just constantly taking myself to the next level. Your second question is a very important question. I go back to the neighborhood. You know, so I do spend time in the area I grew up in here in Miami. The other thing I do is I've been fortunate enough to make enough money. So at a number of schools, I actually have scholarships in my name that these scholarships go to young men that look like you, that demonstrate academic excellence, and these scholarships pay for their college tuition. So these are some of the things that I do just to remind me of the fact that I've been blessed. So I share my blessings, which is what I'm constantly focused on. The second thing I've been doing is there is a new museum in Washington, D.C. It's called the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. And I sat on the Smithsonian Board of Directors for a number of years. So one of the projects that I am very proud of was I was part of watching the construction and the development of that museum over the last 12 years. And it is now the world's most, I'll call it busiest and the world's most active museums in terms of the number of people that flows through that museum. And that museum talks about our history, our culture, and the role that African Americans played in building America. So it is a great way to tell our story in terms of the role that we played in America's history. So hopefully I answered your question, but yes, I had strong support along the way, continue to have strong support. Yes, I give back to the community. So when Brother Barrett and others asked me to spend some time with you, I actually look forward to doing that because hopefully if you just take away a small piece of anything I said, and hopefully it will have some impact in some way in your life. And so my focus in life at this point is really to give back as much as I can to make sure that we have more people that look like me capturing the various opportunities that various business environments and industries have to offer. So hopefully I answered your questions, Zaire.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Atkins?
I have a question.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
What type of engineering did you concentrate on?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, it was electrical engineering, but I actually have 3 degrees because I was pretty good in math and science. And one of the things I do today is I advocate STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So my first degree was in physics. So I went to a school called Rollins College, which is located in Winter Park, Florida. So I went through the physics program. My second degree is in electrical engineering because I love computers, and my success in my career was actually building large systems. And then I also have a degree in computer science. So physics, electrical engineering, and computer science. And it sounds like those are 3 separate things, but you know, if you remember from math, these things called Venn diagrams, there's a lot of overlap between the 3 things. So incrementally to do the 3 degrees, it wasn't like doing 3 different things. It was more like doing, you know, in aggregate, two different things. So that's my background.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you talked about one athlete and so how did you come upon engineering as your final destination when you were deciding career?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I was very active in a number of things, including athletics. But I realized early, and then others realized for me, that I always had this interest in understanding how things work, how to build things. As a matter of fact, I had a tough childhood at times because I would experiment with things at home, you know, by taking things apart. And most of the time I was able to figure out how to put it back together, how it came apart. So in those scenarios, I did okay, but there were scenarios where I would take things apart and it didn't go back together quite right, and my parents wasn't too happy about that. But those were the types, that was evidence in terms of that I was very interested in how things work, how to build things. And then when I discovered that I was pretty good at math and science, and then after spending time with my counselors and some of my mentors, they suggested that computer engineering should be an area that I should consider. And by the time I got to I think it was either my junior or senior year, I started to take up more interest in terms of understanding electrical engineering and computer science. So I knew at some point that's where I would be headed, because I always had this deep interest in terms of how things work. So when I finished my engineering and all of my college work, you know, I was able to work on some really, really neat projects in IBM. I was actually the guy that worked on IBM's first mobile or laptop computer. I ran the design team that introduced the product called the ThinkPad, and it was our first mobile computer. And that's when I actually had the opportunity to spend time in places like Japan, working with our lab in a place called Yamato. I was also the person that drove IBM's business, and today we call it IoT, Internet of Things. So I helped IBM build different types of smart devices as part of my career. And then the last big thing I worked on before I left IBM was a product called Watson, which some of you may have heard of, but it was the computer that in 2011 played on national TV, and it played the game Jeopardy against some of the best Jeopardy champions. And of course, the computer won. So I've actually had sort of the opportunity to work on a number of things along the way. But yeah, a lot of this was just grounded in just my overall interest in terms of how things work, and then how you can make, hopefully, to build solutions to make the world a better place. So, and I just continue to build on that theme.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from you? Appreciate you, and
Yeah.
I cannot let you leave without telling my story.
Okay.
And so, just for you gentlemen, just so you know what kind of person he is, not only is he highly successful, but a little over a year, I guess, well, it's been over a year ago, I approached him and he didn't really probably know who I was. I knew who he was, but I had my mother, who was, for her 91st birthday, her desire was to go to the Smithsonian African American Museum in Washington, D.C. And if you've never been, tickets are pretty hard to come by. And so I reached out to Brother Atkins, and he was able to help us secure tickets. And it's something, you know, my mother has never forgot and talks about to this day. And so, again, I can never thank you enough, Atkins. Again, that's just kind of person he is. For somebody he probably didn't even know, he was willing to help. So I appreciate that. I'm always going to tell that story about you.
Okay.
Just appreciate you so much.
All right. Well,
So,
you know, I'm always humbled by stories like that, because, you know, I try to do things because I can. And hopefully, as you guys walk away from this conversation, that's what this is all about. You know, so when you think about our National Kappa League program and the time you get to spend with the various brothers from Kappa Alpha Psi, just really take advantage of these moments, because again, you can always learn from others. And we all sat in the chair that you sit in today. A lot of us still see ourselves in you, and it is our obligation and it is our job to make sure we give you all of the tools and capabilities to be great men and do some great things in life. So with that, is always my pleasure speaking with you young men. Folks know how to find me, so if you're looking for me, you know, I'm really not that hard to find, and I'm typically pretty responsive in terms of responding to folks. So good luck, and you know, Godspeed.
Thank you, Brother Atkins.
Okay.
All right, we're going to jump into